Newstalk. Ask the expert on Lunchtime Live.
1800 453 106 is the number to call if you want to join us here on the show today, because travel expert, the editor of Air and Travel magazine, Eoghan Corry, is with us on the line today to answer any questions or queries that you have about travel insurance, whether you've lost luggage or got sick abroad. Whatever the query, send it in to us. Eoghan will be able to answer those for you. Kevin is with us on the line today. Kevin, what's your question for Eoghan?
Hi, Andrea. And I was just checking out. I went to France last year and I chose basic insurance on my car, my rental car. When I got there, I told it wasn't adequate enough and that they wanted me to take the full insurance, which I did at the end, but it turned out to be very expensive. So I was wondering, what is the best way of insuring your car when you're abroad? I know you can take out an excess policy here in Ireland and travel on a basic insurance abroad. So I just found it quite expensive and quite bullied into taking the higher insurance, if so to speak. Oh,
and what's your advice for Kevin on this?
Good afternoon, Kevin. Good afternoon, Andrea. Yeah. You've just touched on a large and very annoying part of the travel experience. The way car hire works is they tend to lure you in with a lower price, and there's a lot of attempts to upsell once you go to pick up that car. Quite common to be told your travel insurance isn't adequate. It's quite common to be told that the excess on this is 200 or 1,000 or whatever, and it won't be. If you get stranded on the side of the road, or if you get a prang off someone, it's going to cost you a fortune. There's a reason for this. It tends to happen a lot in the United States because the guys get commission for the extra insurance that they sell on the desk, and in some cases that's most of their wages. The best way to answer Kevin's question is to book your car hire with the insurance, and then if you're worried about the excesses and all the other things that can be thrown at you, there are insurance policies, annual insurance policies you can get for car hire excess, which don't cost that much, from the 4 or 5 big players in the Irish market. My strong advice is don't give way to the bullying, don't give way to the upselling. Easier said than done. I mean, I know farmers who are very good at driving a good deal for cows and sheep, who, when they arrive and they're out of their environment and they've got someone at a car hire desk telling them their insurance is adequate, they give way in that, because you're always a little bit vulnerable. They know that, and they play on that. It's shocking. There are other areas like there are areas where you're not covered by car hire insurance, which are also to be watched. Italy is a good example, where the white roads, off the main roads, things like that, your car hire insurance might not be covered in those areas. It's back to that thing of reading policies. But in general, in the modern world, the car hire the car you hire and the insurance you pay as part of that car hire policy is adequate for most eventualities.
Because I would have thought, Kevin, first of all, you bought you had the travel insurance, did you, or the car insurance? Did you get that in Ireland before you went?
No, I actually booked it online and I took the basic insurance out. But when I got there, they told me it wasn't adequate enough, and which gave me worry, and also having a couple of kids in the car and stuff like that. I was bullied into it. Yeah, I was. But again, the price of it was very expensive,
A significant price difference, Kevin?
Yeah, it was double my car hire.
Right, okay. Mm-hmm. So in this case, Eoghan, actually the initial basic policy Kevin had opted for would have sufficed?
Absolutely, it is adequate. If you've got, the basic policy leaves you with a higher excess. It sometimes leaves you with areas that aren't covered. But in general, if you're doing an ordinary car hire holiday, which is basically road to wherever you're going and nothing very adventurous up the mountains or whatever, it does cover. The reason that the guys try to upsell is that they get commission for it. And there's also this little 3-card trick where they're filling out the form and they say, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? And you say, no, no, no. And sometimes they stick in a yes, and it turns up in your credit card bill. It actually happened to me. I'd regard myself as a seasoned traveller. Yeah. And I found one of the no's had turned into a yes when I got back.
Right, so just it's well worth flagging that, and thanks, Kevin, for getting in touch with us. 1800 453 106 is the number if you want to chat to Eoghan here today. Stuart is on the line. Stuart, what's your question?
Hi, Andrea. Hi, Eoghan. Good. I'm just
good afternoon, Kevin.
We're travelling to Australia as a family, 2 adults and 2 children, later in the year. And we were just having a quick look at travel insurance, but it's very complicated. It's like mobile phone packages to pick out what's the best requirement you need. And there's just a couple of things. Is the flight cancellation? It seems to be an add-on on all the different policies. Flight cancellations. Is that something you need to get, or would that be covered by the airline?
Very important point, Andrew. Flight cancellation is not covered by the airline. Flight disruption and flight cancellation are generally they're very basic. The airline cover for it is that they have to get you to where you're supposed to go. They're under contract to do so. But if the reasons for cancellation get complicated, for instance, an illness in the family, that's where travel insurance kicks in. And if you have adequate insurance, it also gives you more options. You're really at the mercy of the airline and what they do to you. For instance, we have a lot of strikes this week. Heathrow is on strike. France is on fire in terms of shutting down airspace. The airline will tell you, well, you can travel Thursday, you can travel Friday. If you have adequate travel insurance for disruption, it gives you the option of booking on an alternative carrier. But it is an add-on, and where it's become a very, very big issue is in recent years when we've had quite a lot of very short-term flight cancellations. The airline, it's very basic. They're not an insurer of last resort, but they are under contract to get you to where you're supposed to be. And if you've got a long flight, complicated flight to Australia, very good idea to have flight cancellation or disruption. Disruption's as important as cancellation.
Okay, good stuff. Stuart, thanks a million for that query. I think we've Michael as well. Michael, what's your question?
Hi, Andrea. No, my question is, I was just wondering about, I'm planning to go to America this year, and I was just wondering about, I'm at the moment I'm undergoing chemotherapy, and I was just wondering, to get travel insurance for going to America, like, you'd really need travel insurance for America. And I was just wondering what's the best company, that gives travel insurance for anybody that is undergoing chemotherapy.
Eoghan.
It's available. It's expensive. You're absolutely right. Don't even think of going to America without travel insurance. It's a very expensive country to have an accident or get sick in. We have lots of instances of people doing GoFundMe to try and get people back. It is available. It is expensive, but it's complicated. It isn't part of your general policy. And there are there are companies, and I don't really do the recommending companies on air, but there are underwriters, specialists under a small number of specialist underwriters that will deal with chemotherapy. They deal with everything. They deal with people who are HIV positive, all of that, those things that used to be really difficult to. This question also, Michael, relates to people over the age of 70 and in cases over the age of 75. It costs a lot, but it is available. And, it's not a question that you go on and buy this online. It does involve contacting the company and getting an individual quote and getting an individual policy for it. It also will depend, the price in it will depend on your level of your private health insurance, the level of cover there. And obviously, if it's in Europe, it makes it easier if you've got, because of the EHIC. It is complicated, it's expensive, but it's really worth going. And don't even think about going to America without insurance.
Is it through a broker really, Eoghan, then that Michael should stop
go through a broker is a good, but even the companies like they're four big, the Access and the Multi-Trips and the people like that get cover.ie. If you contact them individually, very often they're underwriter. It's one of those cases where they don't tend to come back with the quote straight away. They have to go through all the options with underwriters.
Okay.
But it's certainly available, and don't be dissuaded from travel.
Okay. Best of luck with the trip, Michael, and thanks for the question.
Luck,
Shirley is with us too. What's your query, Shirley, for Eoghan?
My query is that my husband and I'm 87 and he's 88, and anytime we want to go abroad we find it very hard to get travel insurance, and we're going to the States for Christmas this year, so it's obviously important that we do get insurance, and I'm just wondering, has Eoghan any suggestions as to who we could try? Most of the companies just don't want to know about older people.
Eoghan?
Absolutely, same answer to the similar question. They shy away from it. Everybody loves a 25-year-old going away for 14 days and gives it cover, and you buy it online. Again, it's back to the brokers and back to the individual companies. We have a problem arising in general with insurance in Ireland, that the number of underwriters who deal in the Irish market it's been reduced by the year, and some of the people who specialised have gone since the pandemic, but it is available. And again, I would recommend going individually to the companies or individually to a broker.
Okay.
It is available. I know oddly enough, the UK Post Office was a very good fallback for people who are over pension age. But the options have closed down a little bit, and it is expensive. It is expensive. But as I say, don't even think of going to America without it.
Yeah. Shirley, thank you for that query, and enjoy the trip, Shirley, as well at Christmas. Just a couple of quick texts from listeners. This listener says, any advice on the best travel insurance for a 20-year-old going skiing, not on a big budget?
Skiing is pretty normal. It costs a little bit more than your ordinary 14-day policy or your annual policy, but only about €20 more. Ski is it's one of those added extras. A lot of those adventure sports are covered by your ordinary policy. Things like banana boats and camel riding and snorkeling. Ski isn't, and other things like kite surfing, quad biking, they're not covered as well. So they are available for a younger person. They're not that much more expensive.
Okay.
One important thing to remember about skiing, though, is in some places, some of the ski resorts, there's a bit of a scam going on where they rush you off to a private hospital because there's money in it, and sometimes the travel insurance company queries this. So it's very important as soon as you can, after anything goes wrong, to get back in touch with your travel insurance company to make sure that what the treatment you're getting is valid. And there's also countries like Andorra which will sell you there is a national travel insurance policy, which is a very good idea to take out, because it means that all of those questions on the when the accident, what they call the blood wagon goes up the mountain and brings you back down again, all of those things are already covered.
Okay, I'll have to leave it there, Eoghan, for the moment, but there's an awful lot more queries and questions coming into us, so we might actually come back to this, hang on to them for another day, but I'll leave it there for the minute. Eoghan Corry, of course, editor of Air and Travel magazine. Eoghan, thanks for your time here on the programme.